We are live. Let's see here. Sending data. I think we're live.
Are we live is the question.
I think we're getting there.
So,
we're straight.
we start every night at 8:28, so you've got a minute or two to grab a friend, grab a drink, and grab a friend a drink. But don't grab your friend's drink. What are we doing here?
I'm trying to share it. This is what I do every week.
I didn't know you'd pull it up. I was like, where did it go? Whatever suits your fancy for a drink, whether it be tea or water or beer in a fancy glass with your name on it.
That's
Check this out. Sherry and Chris Miller rocking the
You can't see it.
etched names.
Oh, there it is.
There it is. Reverend Dr. Katie Calloway in cool
Yes.
font.
And Reverend Dr. John Calloway. Thank y'all so much.
Yeah.
This is awesome. And then thank Rick Jensen for
Rick
what's
came over-
inside the glass.
Rick came over for basketball last night and accidentally left beer.
Yep.
So
So we're drinking it.
So what happens to beer that is accidentally left in our fridge?
It becomes,
It's a donation.
it'll be toast. Toast for talking toast.
Oh man, life is good. It is 8:28 now, and we start every week at 8:28 to start this thing we call Talkin' Toast, where we pull back the curtain on our creative process and make the sermon moment more of a conversation. So we hope that you feel free to tune in and chime in as much as possible to truly make this a conversation. We haven't started on our sermons for this week. So anything...
Yeah, it's like it's some secret. That's
No.
the same every week.
No.
Like this
Yeah.
is the start of our sermon.
This is the start of our sermon writing process, so we want you to be a part of it. And so if there's something that strikes your fancy, or if there's a question that you have on the themes that we bring up tonight, let us know, and then we'll kind of work that into our sermon, or try to at least.
That's right. So if you're watching tonight, chime in and let us know where you're watching from. Let us know what it feels like outside. Here, it got
balmy.
up to a nice 91 degrees high today.
Man, last week I was starting to sense fall in my bones, you know?
I know.
This week, not so much.
Everybody sent around those memes that said, "This is fake fall, don't believe it."
It was fake fall.
And it was.
It was
They were-
fake
they were
fall.
exactly
They were exactly
right.
Yeah.
But leaves started falling down, and
And in
Right.
South Carolina, there were trees changing colors already.
It happened.
Yeah, it's so wild. It's so wild.
It is.
But alas, we live in a time of ecological destruction, and
But
it is what it is.
That's normal. The
ecological destruction. Yeah,
no,
that's
ecological destruction's not normal. The fluctuation of the season and the Earth's being like, yeah, we're almost there. No, we're not quite yet there.
Just
you know what I
kidding.
mean? Yeah, that happens.
I did learn a fun fact this week.
What'd you learn?
That Baltimore is chiefly responsible for pumpkin spice lattes. The Baltimore Banner ran an article on this week.
Really?
The McCormick Spice Company was the first company based out of Baltimore, was the first spice company to package a pumpkin spice. So that pumpkin spice then went into the pumpkin spice lattes. So you're welcome, everyone.
Because we, had a
We
big
had
part
a part
in
in
this.
this. No. So everyone can thank Baltimore. There's more here than murder.
Baltimore's a great place.
Baltimore's great.
I love Baltimore.
Yeah. No, I am the chief defender of all things Baltimore.
It shouldn't have to be a defense because it's just a
No.
great city.
It is a great city.
In fact, some would say it's the greatest city in America.
Greatest city in America. I was in West Baltimore today. I had so much fun.
Yeah.
Just had a great time.
I was in the turf in Wrexham, and it said Baltimore, the greatest city in America.
If it's true in
And
Wrexham,
the,
it's
and the
true.
turf in Wrexham.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely.
It's true.
So yeah, somebody chime in and let us know if the chat's working.
I think it is.
You
There are
think
people.
so? Okay, perfect.
People are conspiring right now.
There we go. Well, good. Well, as we get started, the first thing every week on Talking Toast is we ask the question, what is sustaining you? And we'll ask each other, okay, your mom said it is. We'll ask, what is sustaining you? What is getting you by? What is saving your life right now? What is your 808 beat if it's hip hop? What is the undercurrent? What is sustaining you? Thank you, Sonia Scott. It's good to see. We have two Georgians
Yeah, I
on
know.
right now. That's good. So Katie, I'm going to ask you first, and then if you all want to chime in, what is sustaining you? What is that thing that's getting you by right now? Yeah.
I've got a lot sustaining me right
Ooh,
now.
tell me all about it.
You know, it was interesting because last week I was like, whatever. I don't have anything sustaining me. Life is life. I would say just a plug here. We had a church picnic on Sunday night that was just so delightful. We played kickball. I trash talked John.
We both trash talked each other.
We trash talked each other. We just had a lot of fun. It was great. Great turnout. Games were played. Cake was eaten. Burgers were grilled. It was great.
It was a lot of fun.
So we went from that to before work on Monday. I decided that I needed to go mountain biking. And I went mountain biking, and it was equally delightful in a different way. John was looking down at my arm. I did wrap myself around a tree. You can't see that because of the light, but I got
Don't spill your drink.
I'm not used to sitting in this chair. I got a nice little raspberry right here, but it comes with the territory.
It does.
But I just had the best time, and we went out there to the state park together before work and just had a good time.
All right, we've got a lot of people sharing. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Cheryl Haynes said it was delightful talking about the picnic, and that was a lot of fun. And we had picnic and game night, and I watched as one of our older members played chess with one of our
that
middle
was
schoolers.
Glorious.
It was just the coolest.
It was a very
experience.
serious game of chess too.
It made me so happy. Deanna Choplin in North Carolina said, I think seeing all the back to school photos and knowing I can get back to my amazing teachers in the next couple of months. But so at first that back to school feeling is a little bit different this time around.
When you're not
that
a
makes
student
sense.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bill Harding said being back home after being in Dallas. I was complaining about 90 degrees. He said it was 104 to 110 in Dallas. Good Lord. And then Jim Schlemmer said 4 more sleeps until football. And actually it's 2 more sleeps for some because Thursday night
they start.
And
but there were some games last weekend.
And if you're a Georgia Tech fan, you actually played some football last week. And so this is our first time trying so sorry. We're trying to figure out a new bedtime, and we let our child stay down for thing. Give us just 1 second. Okay.
I've got to take her upstairs.
Okay, well, I'll keep going, and we'll figure out.
Sophie.
All right. Sorry about that. So, new bedtime didn't work tonight. We'll figure that out. Yes. And then Julia said Martin's buttered popcorn is sustaining her. Lee Taylor saying listening to country music on Alexa today. And then Only Murders in the Building. I know that came out today. That comes out today, the new season. I cannot wait to go see that one. And then Alexa's talking about Andy. That's also Katie's brother being back. I've never completed a chess game with my new chess set. Oh, it's good. All right. So that's keep on chiming in. Let us know what's sustaining you. I'll tell you what's sustaining me is the kids being back in school, although that's a little bit different right now. But with the kids being back in school, I get to walk our child from our house. It's about 0.6 miles up to the school and then 0.6 miles back. and then in the afternoon I get to go zero point 0.6 miles again, and then zero point 0.6 miles back, and it is awesome, absolutely awesome, even when it's blazing hot outside. So that's what is sustaining me. Well, usually there's two of us here, and we're doing the talking, and maybe that'll happen in just a little while. But this week we're talking about another lectionary passage. We're into my favorite gospel again, which is Mark, the Gospel of Mark. We're still in year B, if you're following on the lectionary side of things. And this gospel reading is kind of it's a hard one, because it's Mark 7, verses 1 through 8, comma, 14 through 15, comma, 21 through 23. And I cannot think of another lectionary selection like this that has 3 different passages. And so we've got to do some work and see what all is left out there, because it's always interesting whenever you're looking at a chapter and you see that different verses are left out. And Sonia Scott asked, why is Mark my favorite? Mark is my favorite because it is short and to the point, and Mark just doesn't play around with things. And it's kind of interesting to me that it's our first gospel. Whenever people who were collecting the canon put the order together, they put Matthew first because it starts off with a genealogy of Jesus, and that's the beginning. This person begat this person begat this person, all the way basically from David to Jesus, trying to show that Davidic line, because Matthew is very focused on the fulfillment of prophecy. Whereas Mark, you don't get as much of that. It's not that all these things are happening for the prophetic reason. Mark's very short and to the point, and we also think that the gospel writers of Matthew and the gospel writer of Luke had Mark in hand as they're writing. So it's kind of fascinating to me. That the other part to Mark that makes it my favorite is the way that it ends, because it has, if you look, and your Bible has subheadings, it'll say a shorter ending and then a longer ending. And so Mark stops actually with, and they left and they were afraid, and then it continues into that shorter ending, and then it has a longer ending. So I just think Mark's just fascinating with me. It's not Katie's favorite gospel. But
I like Luke better.
Yeah. Luke is a better storyteller, but Mark is kind of short and to the point. So anyway, that's good. And hey, Fran, who is in Oregon, and Jim, this is good stuff. Good stuff. So I just basically talked about Mark just for a second,
okay,
and said that this is the first time that I've ever seen a selection with 3 different.
Yeah, it's a weird separation, but it is also kind of logical, in all revolving around the same idea of tradition. Can I scoot in just a touch?
Yeah, and then we've got to figure out what are the things that are left out in there.
Yeah.
But in this passage, in Mark 7, it does talk about the tradition of things. You can get into a few different things with this. One could be that you could talk about what is clean and what is unclean. You could talk about practices. You could talk about help me out here. What else stuck out to you in this text? What defiles, what goes in, and what comes out.
Right.
There's a lot of different ways you can go with this.
Yeah, there's the idea of like the role of law versus the role of spirituality, or some would say law versus prophecy. So Jesus brings up one of the prophets, and it's kind of held in tension with the tradition and the commandments of God. So there's like law versus prophecy, so like the stagnancy of the law versus the spirit of the law in the prophecy. Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways to go with this text. I know that there are some folks who watch this as like a lectionary help, like just as one of those kind of working preacher kind of things.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of different ways. The way that we are going to focus on is tradition in this, because the disciples basically come out to, they're called out by the Pharisees who are there visiting from Jerusalem, and I've got to do a little more work and figure out exactly where they are. We tried to do that before the internet went out. It's been a night, but the Pharisees and the scribes are there, and they call out the disciples for not washing their hands before meal. And we don't know. They say, "Why are you eating? Why are you eating with defiled hands?" And we don't know what exactly that means. Is it that they didn't wash up at all before dinner? Does it mean that they didn't follow a certain protocol? More than likely. Or does it mean that... I guess those are the two options.
Well, yeah, and so in context, the time period, the religious leaders were the keepers of purity laws, and they were the enforcers of purity laws, because basically the religion rose up as all religion really rose up as a way of organizing the people around their ideas of the holy. So they had this idea of the holy that was undefiled and perfect, and so people couldn't get close to it because people were so dirty and ritually impure, right? And so the religious rituals rose up as a way to take the ritual impurity of human beings and make it not so bad, or however you want to put it, in order to come close to the pure God. And so it's all based on this philosophy of God, the divine, the holy, being the most pure thing, 100% pure, and people, the most impure thing, 100% impure. So all of these rituals in many different religions rose up as a way to help individuals come closer, help impure individuals come closer to the pure God. And so the rituals that were around hand washing and washing on the way into the temple, and the laws around menstrual cleansing and all of that, all of those types of rituals were in order to bring people closer to God. And what happens is quite the opposite. And what Jesus lifts up is kind of like, no, actually what these rituals are doing are putting up barriers between God and humans.
Sermon.
Hang
on for a minute. So let me step on your toes for a second.
Okay.
Because yes, there are some limits to tradition, which is what I'll be talking about. But there are also some joys of tradition, right? Because these joys, if you put it into those kind of circumstances where it's all undefiled and defiled, or it's pure and impure, you're also missing that there could be a really good side of preparing to be in the presence. Like, ritual can help us. Ritual can bring us can bring some life to that.
Yeah. And please don't hear me saying that it couldn't. Yeah. I was simply saying, like, this is where the ritual cleanliness came from.
Yeah.
I wasn't really talking about your sermon of the traditions.
It's all good.
No, I really wasn't.
Yeah. I was. Well, what we were getting to is I'm going to be talking about the limits of tradition, and Katie's going to be talking about the joys of tradition. At least that's what we came up with a little while ago. We'll see if that sticks. I hope that sticks. We'll see. But in that, we can talk about the limits for a while, because a lot of times the tradition becomes the thing, and that's what's not supposed to happen.
Missing the forest for the trees.
Yes. Whenever you talk about, here's a modern day example, the Ten Commandments, right? When you talk about hanging up the Ten Commandments and doing things like that, the question has to become, are you doing that as you're kind of idolizing the Ten Commandments, saying like this is the thing, or is it for another purpose? And I think that's where we get into trouble. That's the limits of tradition. Whenever you talk about like the Bible and the holy word of God and those kinds of things, well, is there some point? In fact, I saw a church flyer one time that say, "Come and be with us as we worship the word of God." And it's like, well, wait a minute, like that's the thing. You're not supposed to be. That's become the thing.
Meaning the Bible, not capital W, word of God.
Right, yeah. So Jim said rituals keep social order, right? Yes, so that would be some of the joys. And then Bill Harding said,
the joys and the limitations.
Yeah,
because that does limit society too. The order in itself is limiting. The question is, what is the order for, and who is the order serving?
Yeah. And then Bill Harding asked, "Aren't some rituals reasons for celebration?"
Absolutely.
Which I think is the perfect transition into your side of this.
Yeah. and the little history of the birth of rituals, I was really thinking about like early, before Hinduism became Hinduism, like before the earliest manifestations of religion. The rituals that rose up were rituals of purity and impure. And so Judaism came from that general vicinity of the world and had the influences of that purity and impurity thought pattern. So that's that. That was completely separate from the tradition that the Pharisees are really talking about. Some rituals... Why are you laughing?
I'm just laughing. It's all right. I wasn't calling you out. I was just saying
You were calling me out.
No, it gets into the limit. I was more saying like that. Anyway, it's all good. It's all good.
But yes, some rituals are reasons for celebration, or some rituals are conduits of celebration. They help us celebrate. There are joys that we inherit from our traditions, and I think that's what Jesus is getting to by highlighting the prophets. So what he does is really fascinating, because the Pharisees are using the Torah as their framework for interpreting everything else, for interpreting their tradition. And there, in that, the Ten Commandments, the Leviticus Code, all of that has a big part in the Torah as their lens for interpreting tradition. Which is, I think, part of Jesus's frustration with them. Because after the Torah came the prophets. And the prophets used the Torah to remind the people what God was calling them to do and who God was calling them to be. So the prophets were calling them to new things, but using the tradition to do that. And so that is a joy. There's a joy in the way that the tradition can be reignited to set us on a different trajectory. Now, don't read too much into that, because there's also a flip side of that comes with the limitation. The idea of making anything great again is taking that tradition and idolizing it, right?
Yeah.
But I think that these two have to be in this dynamic relationship with one another, where people, in order to embrace tradition, must recognize the limitations of the tradition and the joy of that tradition.
Meaning we have to break down the dichotomy in that, because it's all present within it.
Or not necessarily break it down, but hold it in tension. Right?
Sure, but I mean, that's the idea of breaking down a dichotomy, is holding all of it together, in my mind.
Semantics. What?
Jim Schlimmer, I was trying to lead into this. Are the Pharisees always the bad guys? And the question, I think that's a really great question. There was a wonderful, sermon I heard growing up. And I don't know, there were a few different sermons that Reverend Dr. Randy Wright preached that like just stick out in my mind. And one of them was, if you, the line was, you would want, if you're a preacher, you would want a church full of Pharisees, meaning a church full of people who are going to like be there. They're going to be the ones to make sure all the things are done. They're going to be the ones to lock the doors. They're going to be the ones to, make sure everything is in place, in its right place, in line. And you could be so lucky as to have a group of people that are that committed to their religion. So no, the Pharisees aren't always the bad guys. And throughout the Gospels, you see different Pharisees struggling, trying to figure out where Jesus fits in, because Jesus doesn't fit in any of these boxes that they are putting in place.
And I think making the Pharisees the bad guys flirts with, walks the line with a type of anti-Semitism or supersessionism, a replacement theory of Christianity replacing the religion that the Pharisees were upholding. And that's why we have to be so delicate with this idea of tradition that we're inheriting, and how we're inheriting this, and how we're acknowledging our inheritance in receiving the traditions that we have.
Yeah. Julia had a very serious question. Can we bring back silly hats?
I think we should bring back silly hats. Starting Sunday.
Starting Sunday. Can you wear your Taco Bell?
Screw you.
Can you?
I wore it last week on Talking Toast.
You did.
Stop. Man. You can't catch a break.
Oh, man. This is good stuff. I don't know if anybody else caught that.
John makes fun of my purple hat that I wore last week on Talking Toast. He and Sophie call it my Taco Bell hat. And
because it has the same exact pattern as the...
Keep it up. Keep it up.
No, I'm just telling you why we call it Taco Bell hat.
Keep it up. Keep it up.
Anyway, yeah. So no, Pharisees aren't always the bad guys. And yeah. So we've got the limits of tradition. I'm wondering if we should switch the limits of tradition and the joys of tradition, because it feels like you have more energy behind the limits of tradition, and I might have more energy behind the joys of tradition, and we can always just switch those.
No, I think I want the challenge of talking about the joys.
Okay.
John, earlier tonight, said it's only appropriate for my pessimist wife to preach on the joys of tradition. You need to preach on more joy. Smile, woman.
I did not say any of that except for the very beginning, that I'm excited to hear my pessimists preach on joy. That was the only thing that I said. I would not have said smile, woman.
It was in parentheses.
No, it was not. No. Oh. Take your Taco Bell hat. Anyway. Well, that was fun. Nothing like being called sexist right in the middle of Talking Toast. Here we go.
I never said that. I never said that.
Oh, well, we've done a lot of talking, and now we need to do some toasting. And oh, by the way, there's a great song that's in the headline. Does anybody can you read the
And
thing?
the same sun that warms your heart will suck the good earth dry.
The same sun that warms your heart will suck that good earth dry. Tradition. So I felt like that was pretty good about this.
Yeah.
The tradition can be both life-giving, warm your heart, and it can also suck the good earth dry. That was not good. And then anyway, can anybody name that band? The song is, do you know it?
I have no idea.
You don't?
I live under a rock.
No, you do. You don't. You do know this band very well.
Is it the Indigo Girls?
It is.
Ah!
Do you know what the song is?
No, I do not.
Get out the map, get out the map, and lay your finger anywhere down. Anyway, if you need a good song to listen to tonight, and maybe you need a little bit of an escape with all of the things that are going on in the political landscape of all of it, that's a good one. That's a good escape song. So enjoy. Get out the map. All right, let's do some toasting.
Okay. Well, friends, may you go from here and remember that the things we inherit can lead to joy, and they can lead to flourishing, and they can lead to new life.
And may you find that that you are making the right thing the thing.
Cheers.
Cheers, friends.
Cheers.
All right.
They can also lead to therapy, but we won't talk about that tonight.
All right. Well, it was good to be with you all. We'll see you next week. Everybody have a good night. And, we got football in a couple days. That's
days.
Good. Fever tomorrow.
I'm going to West
Football.
Virginia's game.
That's awesome.
West Virginia's game.
Sophie and I are going to watch Clemson play Georgia.
Deep breaths.
It's going to be tough.
Deep breaths.
Yep. All right.
Cheers,
See
y'all.
you.